You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Welcome to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. Today, we're going to go into some interesting topics. First off, though, if you'd like to be on the show, just send us an email at millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We're always looking for quality millionaires to interview and to kind of tell their story and get into their investment portfolio and allocation. Also, we recently just had an article launch on Business Insider, and the feedback we've been getting is great. And I'd just like to go into a couple of the things that we get into in the article. The article is entitled, "We've interviewed nearly 50 millionaires about how they invest their money. Here are 5 strategies anyone can implement." And the first one is shifting your emphasis from vertical to horizontal income. You know, all of our millionaires have either looked for and succeeded in generating additional income, whether it be in rental real estate, some small business ventures, blogging, or just even getting dividends and some capital gains from their investments. And that's been very key to their success. The other one is to utilize the 20-20 rule. And the 20-20 rule basically states that you're going to invest 15 to 20% of your income in long-term type investments that you're just not going to touch, either until retirement or for some other opportunity that is planned 10, 15, 20 plus years in the future. And then also to keep no more than 15 to 20% of your net worth in your primary residence. And in fact, as the millionaires we've interviewed get wealthier and wealthier, they've kind of tried to maintain 10 to 15% in equity in their primary residence. And we go into some details in the article about how to allocate the primary residence and maybe if you have a second home. The other thing is to start investing early and to take risks. And by taking risks, it's not just when you're young. That might be taking risks all throughout your investment and your career to try to have those opportunities set in front of you to generate larger amounts of income and to kind of get yourself in a position to be financially free. As we mentioned and we've talked on the show before, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, and Albert Einstein says, "He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." And it just, if you do the math and you talk to some of these millionaires, it just is so vital to begin investing early. Get rid of that debt if you have any, and to begin investing. The next was to take advantage of tax-free wealth building. There's all sorts of opportunities out there to do this. It's interesting as we've interviewed a lot of these millionaires, they've told us, some of the ones that are W-2 employees, that tons of the coworkers that they work with have not taken advantage of the employer-sponsored retirement plans, such as a 401k or a Roth 401k. And this is something that a lot of them have done from the onset of their career. Another opportunity in that realm is to invest in a Roth IRA or a health savings account. And we go into detail in the article about how health savings accounts can be very advantageous for your wealth building and your retirement planning, as they have various tax advantages to them. And the last thing that we go into the article about is to review the tax location of your assets annually. This is something that especially Clark and I have taken a great interest in, is a lot of the people who started investing in 401ks when they first came out are now at the point where they are in their late 60s, early 70s, and are going to be required to take the minimum distributions from those retirement accounts. And we found that there are several people who are in this boat, and let's just say they made 50, 60, 70 grand their whole life and saved really well, and invested really well, and they've accumulated quite the portfolio. And all of a sudden they find themselves in situations where they are going to be in a higher tax bracket in their retirement years, 60s and 70s and into their 80s, than they ever were when they were in their working years. So it's really important to kind of look at the allocation and the tax location of your assets. There's so many other products out there that, the Roth products in 401ks and Roth IRAs and HSAs that have been created to look at this, as well as, either small business ventures that you might have and rental real estate that might kick off from your portfolio, and where those assets you have, where they are located and how their tax treatment is going to be in the future. So y'all check that out. It's on Business Insider under the section Your Money. Great article. We've been getting great feedback on it. Today we'd like to kind of go into some detail about the last 10 interviews we had and a couple of the guest interviews, and get into some of the highlights of the show and kind of just do a little bit of review. We had some great feedback on our introduction from y'all, and we really appreciate that. So I just wanted to highlight from one of our guest interviews with Trent Lipinski. He was a former multimillionaire entrepreneur, still is an entrepreneur creating his next business, but he essentially lost a good chunk of his money after he became a millionaire investing in another startup, and that is his game. And his biggest advice was for those of you who are entrepreneurs is to find your customer and create value for that customer. And by creating value, solving a problem that they have. And the next is the Money Guys. We had a great episode with the Money Guys recently, and their biggest advice was to focus on living below your means, to take some risks early on and continue to invest. And that's as soon as you can get that snowball going, it just will roll and roll and roll and roll. And investing kind of becomes not so linear. It starts slow, and as you kind of pick up, it grows exponentially. And they went into some of the mistakes that they've seen the most, and we kind of hit on that in our article with Business Insider, that a lot of people just don't invest in their employer-sponsored retirement plans, or they don't even begin thinking about retirement or investing or how to allocate their wealth and savings rate through their career. Or maybe they don't even start until they're in their mid-30s, and by the time they do, they've lost a decade of doing so, and they've kind of got to figure out a way to make it up. And now Clark is going to kind of talk about some of the millionaires that we've had on the show and what they their advice was.
So we've interviewed about 10 millionaires so far. That's episodes 2 through 6, and then 8 through 12. And those are the 10 that have come out and said they're millionaires and given their investment strategies and allocation. And the sum of their net worth is $28.6 million, and that's about an average of $2.9 million per interviewee. And kind of doing the research and keeping the numbers on it, we think it's been about 50-50 real estate and financial security stocks. So some people have been all in real estate, some have been all in stocks, some have been split in between, some are heavy in cash, some are, don't carry that much cash. And so there's really been, big difference between what they invest in and what they value. And so we just wanted to go through each of these interviews just briefly and provide, the advice that they gave and kind of review these 10 interviews. So the first one, this is episode number 2, Chris, and he earned his money from a software startup. He has a current net worth of $3.6 million. And he talked about not discounting business-to-business startups. And he said there can be a lot of money in that field. Oftentimes on entrepreneurial forums, you see a lot of, products and consumer-based businesses. But he said that business-to-business field is often overlooked, and there can be a tremendous amount of value there. Mo was our episode number 3. His net worth was $1.6 million, and he talked about the power of hard work and having a good plan. And he said, people think you have to be really smart, but you really don't have to do that. Anybody can do it. You don't have to make your money through athletics or writing music. Anybody can be successful if they create a plan and stick with it. Episode 4 was Paul, and he had 5 single-family rentals with a current net worth of, he's probably 1.1, 1.2 now. And he talked about starting early with tax advantage accounts and saving up cash for opportunities in the future. And so he's saved up that cash, and that's how he's been able to buy his single-family rentals. Episode 5 was Dr. James Daly from the White Coat Investor. He has a current net worth, or when we did the episode, of about $6.5 million. And he talked about financial success being a choice. And he said you can choose to be successful, save each paycheck, invest in a reasonable manner, and just kind of follow the course, stay the course. And there's no reason that you cannot be a millionaire. Episode 6 was Mark, and he focuses on dividend stocks. And so he kind of came on and said, hey, I want to make sure that people don't overlook dividend stocks. And his message was keep chugging away. The markets will correct every once in a while, but just keep on moving, keep moving forward. Jace outlined episode 7, our guest interview with Trent. 8 was with Jason with the current net worth of about $6 million. And he said, keep learning. Don't be afraid to take risks. You need to take the risk if you really want to make it quicker than normal. And, he was big into real estate, 100% almost in real estate, and talked about real estate is something that will be here in 40 years. And talked about how a lot of these industries, a lot of these products will kind of move past, they'll phase out, but industry is an investment that will last. Marco was episode 9. He has a current net worth of about $1.1 million. And he talked about living below your means and saving for unexpected events. And then his wife chimed in about budgeting. And so, being aware of how much you have, being aware of how much is coming in, and saving that emergency fund for unexpected events. Episode 10 was John Michael. He's a plumber worth about $3.9 million. And he said to stay focused, have a plan, and then to follow that plan. He said, whatever you do, do a good job. He said, if you cut cantaloupes, cut them well. And kind of just gave the advice to make a name for yourself and do a good job. And he also said to have a 5 or 10 year vision to kind of start outlining that plan. Jennifer was episode 11 with a net worth of $1.8 million. And she talked about reading and listening to podcasts, kind of getting information, learning about what other people are doing. Talk to successful people about what's worked best for them, what hasn't worked best for them, and then kind of, work and base your decisions off of what they've done and what they've been able to do. Episode 12 was Mr. 1500, Mr. and Mrs. 1500 Days to Retirement with a current net worth of about $2 million. And they talked about getting the snowball going early, get your money working for you. So similar to what the money guys mentioned. And she said, making small tweaks to your investment portfolio, your investment decisions can go a long ways. And so just a small decision can really have a big effect on the future. And so those were, the 10 interviews we've done with these millionaires so far. Of course, excited to keep interviewing more. We're about 50-50 between the market and mutual funds. And one thing we'll kind of be putting together in the future is an exact allocation of what these millionaires, or how they invest their money, and exactly how they've allocated.
Yeah, so once again, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. We've had a few people reach out and wanted to remain anonymous, and some of our millionaires have remained anonymous, either by changing names or changing locations, or not even mentioning locations. So if that's something that you're worried about, just let us know, and we can navigate around that. Also, we've got a ton of fun things planned for the show coming up in the future. But if there's something you'd like and you want to see us do, or you want somebody to be on the show, you want us to reach out to somebody to come on the show, let us know. Shoot us an email and we'll do our best to get connected with them and bring them on the show.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Chase Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.